What is the root cause behind the troubles? When all your relationships end up in a bubble, hey, it's just a relationship that sometimes makes you trip. It's just a relationship.
Welcome, everybody, to Just Relationships Podcast. I am Terrence Payton, known to many as TP, where we unpack the ties that bind and we have real conversations that define our connections. Y'all, today we will talk about rejection and abandonment issues, something that is near and dear to my heart. And these things affect our relationships. First of all, let me just define rejection in a relationship, right? Rejection is the painful experience of being pushed away or dismissed in a relationship, whether that is romantic, friendships, or family, leading to feelings of hurt, loneliness, and anxiety, and most importantly, lowered self worth, often triggering hypervigilance, distrust, or self sabotage behaviors in all of your connections. There are some emotional and psychological effects: low self worth, feeling fundamentally unworthy, unloved, and inadequate, anxiety and depression, chronic nervousness, sadness, and fear of abandonment. How about emotional instability? Becoming emotionally fragile, numb, or unstable. And how about this big one? Identity issues. Struggling to develop a solid identity and feeling alone. And then there's rejection sensitivity, intense reactions to perceived or actual rejection, leading to hypersensitivity. Then there are behavioral and relational patterns, such as internalizing, becoming withdrawn, quiet, and prone to sadness or self neglect. And then there's externalizing, displaying aggression, bullying. How about those bullies? Or disobedience. But then the one I hate the most, people pleasing, overcompensating to gain approval, leading to self sabotage. And then you have relationship difficulties as well, trouble trusting, forming bonds, and experiencing conflict, especially in adult relationships. Then you have the intention seekers, acting out to get any form of parental attention, even negative, doesn't matter. Let me give you some long term impacts like self sabotage. Me and my wife dealt with this a lot. Unconsciously recreating rejection scenarios in life, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's love. And then negative self talk, deep seated beliefs of being not good enough. This is something I used to do as a kid and teenager. And I started using defense mechanisms to stop it, even though it didn't go away. Another thing I went through as well is unresolved trauma, lingering feelings of anger, grief, and hopelessness that require healing. Children don't often have the perspective and maturity to understand that rejection may have nothing to do with them and everything to do with the adult. You see, parental rejection may show in physical distancing, like it was for me. I moved from Chicago to Memphis, Tennessee. And then there is the absence of hugs or supportive gestures. It can also be emotional, a lack of comforting, encouragement, sympathy, empathy, or emotional availability. You see, a lot of times people think it just happens to single parent households. But let me tell you something, that is definitely not true. I know many that came from two-parent households that still resulted in rejection. There was a study done on children with parental rejection indicating that there was 7 to 10% in the US And although I can tell you that doesn't seem to be a lot, it is when you look at the US population at about 326 million people, which gives us about 23 million to 32 million people. That says a lot, that there are a lot of people that have dealt with rejection in some form or another. And as we spoke about earlier, it affects our relationships a great deal. We don't often realize because we use defense mechanisms. And it affects our identity and who we grow up to be and how we trust people in all of our relationships. You see, rejection and abandonment shape relationships in deep, often invisible ways. They don't just affect how you feel, they influence how you connect, how you protect yourself, and how you interpret other people's behavior, especially when those wounds go unaddressed. They just quietly script out the entire doggone relationship dynamic. Now, let's define abandonment: feeling emotionally left behind. Even if a person is physically present, stemming from a deep fear of being left or rejected, often rooted in past trauma. It shows up as clinginess or pushing away or intense jealousy, distrust, people pleasing again, or self sabotage, leading to insecure attachments and unstable connections. Feeling unsupported, uninvalidated, or unappreciated, caused by childhood experiences of neglect, abuse, or inconsistent care. Past relationship failures or losses as well. Underlying low self esteem and trust issues. Let's start with the emotional impact: insecurity and low self esteem as well. A core belief of being unworthy or unlovable, internalizing blame for the abandonment. Then you have the fear of abandonment. Sucks. Intense, persistent anxiety that others will leave, often leading to panic or hypervigilance. Trust issues, profound difficulty trusting others, and forming secure bonds, fearing betrayal or desertion. How about emotional dysregulation? Struggles to manage intense emotions like anger, sadness, or fear, leading to instability. Then there's anxiety and depression, common co occurring mental health conditions. What about behavior issues in a relationship? Anyone felt the constant worry your partner will leave, even when there's no reason? Or have you felt excessive need for attention or difficulty with alone time or demanding constant contact? Have you ever felt someone that's close to you as viewing them spending time with others as rejection of you? What about pushing partners away? The push and pull thing, or picking fights to end things before they can leave you. Have you ever done the reassurance seeking, asking, "Do you love me?" or "Promise me you won't leave?" Doing that frequently. What about fear of intimacy? Difficulty opening up emotionally. Yes, I can relate. Or the opposite, moving too fast to bond. Or have you done what I used to do? The dreaded people pleasing. I hate it. Saying yes to everything to avoid conflict or being disliked. And of course, another one that I've seen way too much. I call it serial dating relationships. Jumping from one relationship to the next, avoiding any form of deep commitment. You see, these are examples of a result of abandonment and rejection issues. And as we spoke about earlier, it affects our relationships a great deal and our identity and who we grow up to be, not trusting people in all your relationships. You see, Rejection and abandonment are very difficult to deal with. They hurt our very core of who we are. And unfortunately, it's not easy to overcome. But let me tell you, it can be done. I am a witness of it, and I'm still getting healed the more I open myself up to dealing with my hurt. You see, we develop defense mechanisms to shield us from the hurt. We certainly bury the memory of when it first started. And every time more hurt happened after that, but we can overcome these issues by building self worth through self care, setting boundaries, and seeking support, while understanding that past hurts do not define your present. Using techniques like cognitive reframing to challenge negative thoughts and fostering healthy relationships that offer mutual respect and safety. With therapy being a key tool for deeper healing, which I believe the longer you have dealt with it and the deeper the hurt, the more of need for counseling. And believe me, I have been there. I have worked through it. I have been to counseling, done all the things. But I want to start with some practical things to do, like prioritizing self care by engaging in activities that you enjoy, like exercise, enjoying nature, hobbies, and shopping, which is my all time favorite. Do these to meet your own needs and build a stronger self and become your own rock. Learn to provide your own emotional security rather than rely solely on others, which reduces the codependency. And please, please start practicing self kindness and give yourself some grace. Grace, especially after perceived failure. And notice I said perceived failure because every supposed failure is nothing but a success. How many times have you not learned and grew and got better at what you didn't get right? And that was a success. And you got to recognize that healing takes time. You also must acknowledge that you are feeling pain from abandonment or rejection or both. And this will hurt, but it will be well worth it. Next, understand the root cause. Explore past experiences that trigger these feelings, often in childhood, which typically comes from a parent or whoever raised you, to see how those experiences shaped you. Then you have to challenge the negative thoughts by using, again, cognitive reframing to question unhelpful reactions and gain new perspective. Like realizing a delayed text isn't necessarily abandonment or rejection, or someone telling you that that's a bad idea isn't challenging your self worth. Another thing that you have to do is set boundaries. Learn to say no to things that drain you and communicate your needs clearly. And I mean boundaries with everyone. No one is off limits, not your family, not your friends, not your peers, not your bosses at work. No one is off limits. Another very important thing to do is to build relationships based on mutual trust, respect, mutual respect, and open communication, not just pleasing others. If a relationship is one sided or it's all about the other person in the relationship, whether friends or family or significant others, and that you're the one that's always calling and texting them and them not doing it to you, then you need to have an honest conversation with that person and express your true feelings about how you feel in the relationship. And if there aren't any changes, then you might need to abandon that relationship because relationships can't be about just me. It has to be about we. Just like the old saying, happy wife, happy life. That's a bunch of crap. Doesn't the other spouse get to be happy in the relationship? It should be happy spouse, happy house. When in a romantic relationship, you should look for reassurances when needed. Healthy partners will be happy to provide that reassurance when you ask or you need your feelings validated. And believe me, you deserve that. Now, therapy is an excellent idea. And I prefer a Christian counselor because listen, that can give you the spiritual and the mental aspect of things. And believe me, it's all spiritual at the end of the day. But nonetheless, interview whomever you get for counseling therapy because this is your life and you don't want just anybody feeding into your life. You need trust and results. And if they tell you something you don't believe, don't write them off right away. If you are a praying person, ask God about it and research it yourself to confirm or deny. And if you aren't a praying person, still do the research and confirm or deny. There are also support groups out there that you can share experiences with, which can reduce isolation and provide validation. I know firsthand that sharing with others makes you feel a little intimidated. And believe me, I know. And most of us were taught to keep our business to ourselves. But if you do that and isolate yourself, I can guarantee complete healing will evade you like the plague. Listen, by my transparency and my strong desire to stop feeling the pain, I didn't care who I talked to or who I told my story to. What I found out was that it healed me. And eventually, I didn't even care what people said about me or thought about me. You see, I was after my healing. I would be in front of hundreds of people speaking, and something would trigger me, and I would just start crying. And at first, it would throw me off. And then I would have to explain why I was crying. And let me tell you something on the reality of it. It was very embarrassing because at first, it just made me feel insecure. But it started to happen so much, it became normal for me. And I started using it as a teachable moment. And the responses I received were all loving and encouragement. Remember, rejection and abandonment shape relationships in deep, often invisible ways. They don't just affect how you feel, they influence how you connect, how you protect yourself, and how you interpret other people's behavior. You know, when those wounds go unaddressed, they quietly script the entire relationship dynamic. Listen, I gave you some practical ways a few moments ago, but let me give you some ways to break the cycle. You see, breaking the cycle of rejection and abandonment isn't about being strong or stronger or less emotional. Crap. It's about rewiring the patterns that were created to protect you, patterns that no longer serve you. The shift happens in layers, not all at once. It's not going to happen overnight, but each layer builds real emotional freedom. Here's a grounded, practical path. Slow down the automatic reactions. When somebody says something, hey, when you feel triggered, you feel anxious, you feel like you want to shut down, you just feel defensive, your body is reacting before your mind has a chance to interpret. A powerful first step is learning to pause. Notice the sensation, tight chest, racing thoughts, urge to, oh, I'm out of here. Name it. This is the fear of being left. Give yourself 10 to 20 seconds before responding. And it's going to take practice to do this. That pause interrupts the old script. It separates the past from the present abandonment wounds. It makes you interpret current situations through old experiences. Ask yourself this: is this about them, or is this about something old in me? What evidence do I actually have right now, this moment? If someone else told me this story, would I see it differently? You see, this reframes the moment and reduces emotional distortion. Communicate your needs clearly, and I mean clearly and calmly. People with abandonment wounds, they often hint hope or a test instead of expressing needs directly. So try this. When communication slows down, I feel anxious. It helps me when you check in. I need reassurance sometimes, not because of you, but because of my history. Clear communication, it builds safety instead of confusion. Have those conversations with people. Build internal safety, not just relational safety. If your sense of security depends entirely on someone else's behavior, the fear never truly goes away. So strengthen your internal foundation by practicing self soothing, which is breathing, grounding, journaling helps me a great deal. Building routines that make you feel stable, cultivating friendships and support outside of your relationships, affirming your worth independent of anyone's presence. You see, you become less reactive because you're not relying on one person to regulate your emotions. Challenge the protective behaviors that keep you stuck. I did those. They don't work. These include pulling away firm. If things got like and start feeling rejection, I pulled away. Overgiving, testing people to see if they really love you. Assuming the worst, horrible. Avoiding vulnerability, not good. Each time you choose a new behavior, even once, you weaken the old pattern that you grew up with. Let yourself be seen gradually. Healing doesn't mean throwing yourself into vulnerability all at once. It means opening up in small, intentional steps and noticing that the world does not collapse. Safety grows through repeated experiences of being met, not abandoned. Work with the deeper wound. This is the part most people skip. The fear of abandonment usually comes from your childhood. Typically comes from a parent where it starts off at. Childhood with emotional neglect, inconsistent caregivers, your past relationships where you were rejected or you were betrayed, feeling unworthy or feeling too much. Exploring these roots, whether through reflection, conversation, or professional support, helps you understand why the wound formed in the first place and how to release it. Lastly, practice secure behaviors even before you feel secure. You don't wait to feel confident before you act confidently. You act your way into a new emotional reality. Secure behaviors include asking for clarity instead of assuming, staying present during conflict, allowing space without panicking, trusting until given a reason not to, responding instead of reacting. You see, your nervous system learns through repetition. And I am very passionate about this subject, as you can probably tell. I went through 95% of these emotions and patterns, and it has taken me a long time to heal. and I have still not arrived. But I am closer now than I have ever been. I do not want you to continually be affected by past wounds or current ones. They keep you from being whole and affecting your relationships in a negative way. So remember, stay rooted, stay relational, stay bold. And let me just say this, when you find out the things that helps you to heal and you go and you check out those old relationships that cause you to feel abandoned and rejected, hey, just know you're going to have to forgive those people. You're going to have to take the time out to understand what those things were, how those things were, and forgive. I went on an informational tour for my healing of rejection. I began to ask all of my cousins, mothers, sisters, brothers, everybody I can to find out why my father wasn't the way that he was the way that he was. I began to ask all the questions. See, my father was never firm. He never knew how to be a father, but yet I blamed him for so many years for the rejection that I received. But I had to forgive him, which I have done. And that was one of the first steps in helping my healing as well, was forgiveness. So you all, again, this is most importantly to my heart. I appreciate everything that we've talked about today. I want you to seek your healing. Take the time out, find out the why, the who, the when, and the how come, and just go for it. Hey, y'all, this is your boy, TP. Stay relational. This is Just Relationship Podcast. I'm out.
Ooh, oh, ooh. Why is it easy and hard to have a good relationship? What is the root cause behind the troubles? When all your relationships end up in a bubble, hey, it's just a relationship that sometimes makes you trip. It's just a relationship.